Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our last day of ARMA. I'm Katharina Küster. I'm the assistant curator of this program, and I'm very happy that you all came out on this a bit funny weathered day, I feel. And I'm also happy to tell you that you can take off your masks while seated, so that might help. It's a pleasure to open this panel with Brooke Andrew. Brooke is an artist and curator of Wiradjuri and Celtic ancestry, and he was the artistic director of Nearing, the 22nd Biennale of Sydney. And he is the co-curator of a group show on caring, repairing, and healing, which will be displayed at the Gropius Bau here in autumn 2022, next year. Brooke has actually brought many wonderful people to this program. On Friday, he spoke with Francisco Godoy Vega on the impossibility of decolonization. He invited Pedro Bonamiri to discuss his artistic work, as well as the notion of repair in TV culture. And also yesterday, you spoke with Marcia Langton, which was a great talk on Indigenous Australians' ongoing struggle for political representation. So thank you a lot, Brooke, for being here and for bringing all these wonderful people and variety of Indigenous perspectives to this program. Today we will hear a pre-recorded talk with Brooke and artist Betty Muffler. They will be joined by translator Vicky Cullinan, who is translating from Pitanchachara to English language. And that video will be about 30 minutes long, and before we start the video, we will give a brief introduction and touch upon some of the terminology that will be coming up later and which might be good to briefly discuss before. Just a few words about the artists we're seeing here. Betty Muffler was born near Wataru in South Australia and now lives and works in Leucana in Anangu, Pitanchachara, Yakunchachara lands. She is a highly respected senior woman and artist at Ivancha Arts. Her practice spans painting, drawing, printmaking, and sculpture, and she frequently works in collaboration with artist Marinka Burton. And Marinka Burton was born near Winglina in Western Australia. She works in many mediums, including champi weaving, painting canvas, and beaded jewelry. And both Betty and Marinka are not only artists, but also renowned Ngangkari, which are traditional healers. And alongside their art practice, they work extensively with the NPY Women's Council and other medical practitioners to support Anangu to good health and through times of crisis. Their work will be presented in the aforementioned group exhibition here at the Gropius Bau next year. Before we start the video, Brooke, could you share a bit about Ngangkari healing practice and also touch upon some of the key terms which we see here, which will be coming up in your talk with Betty?
Yama and Mandangu Ngangkari. So thank you, and I see you all, and it's great that you're here. It's in my mother's language, the Wiradjuri language of Western New South Wales. Those of you who may know or may not know, there are around 300 different Aboriginal nations. The linguicide that happened during the colonial period was quite devastating for us. There's only like a very small percentage of languages that are intact at the moment. And so in this terminology here, you have Anangu language, which is Pitjantjatjara, which is the one of a few languages that both Betty and Marinka speak, but also in fact, I was talking a little bit about this before with Christina and a few others, that it's kind of, if you look at the Latin root in European languages, there are some words that do kind of come through into Wiradjuri as well, or words that we actually use and we've replaced some of our own language. So for example, ngurubul. So ngurubul in Wiradjuri is love or good, but we actually use balia quite a lot as well. So it's kind of nice. So we just thought we would just share a little bit about the language and the terminologies. And also, one of the reasons why we did do this pre-recording is because you imagine it's quite late in Australia at the moment. It's like 10 hours ahead for the East Coast and about, I think, 8 hours on the West Coast. And some of these healers, many of them are elders, so they're post 80 years old. They're also, many of them are artists. So Marinka and Betty live in remote communities on country, but some of them were actually forced off country, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about Maralinga as well. But there's a whole kind of context. So I suppose the important thing about looking at these terminologies is when you do see the translations, there's a little sweet moment at the end where we have an exchange around Balya. So, of course, traditionally, pre-colonization invasion, we wouldn't have probably met in that kind of part of the world in that time. But it's nice how there are some positive things that have happened recently. So one word you'll hear is Jukapa, and Jukapa is totem. So my Jukapa, I don't use the word Jukapa, but mine is Garu, which is the magpie that was given to me by my grandmother, who was on a mission. So it was a very different part of the frontier in Australian colonialism. That was about 5 generations ago now. So my relationship to language was about separation. So we had 2 extreme policies in Australia. One was apartheid, but it was called segregation. And the second one, which finished in 1938, but went into the policy of assimilation. So those of you who know about the stolen generations, etc., thank God my immediate family were not affected by that. But that affected our language, practice and culture, etc. Balya, I've already talked about, so you'll hear that. Ngangkari, as Christina already said, is healer. We've got our own word for healer. And so Yinjimara is Wiradjuri language, you see it at the bottom. Yinjimara is to go along life respectfully. But Yinjimara Gunana is something that is an ongoing respect. So we've been talking a bit about other terms of how we deal with the colonial wubba, and wubba means whole, so this kind of vortex, this mess that we're in, we're all kind of like grappling with at the moment. But for me, the kind of translation from Wiradjuri, my own process, and fellow Indigenous people that I've spoken to, we have our own words for it, but it's really about a self-respect, because these are really traumatic spaces to be in, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And of course, Maram Gudyal is the Wiradjuri word for healing.
Thanks, I feel like this helps a lot. Ngangkari healing practice is an important part of Betty and Marinka's artistic work. How were you introduced to their work, and why do you think it is so important for the exhibition next year?
Yeah, it's an interesting a really interesting question. I mean, I think that, for us, healing is very central to our life. It's not kind of just, in a hospital or, someone you go and see. It's very much part of our Yinjimara, the way we are in life. It's not separated, it touches everything. And those of you who saw Marcia Langton's conversation yesterday, she had this really wonderful illustration about the role of Ngangkari in the NPY lands. And it's everything from mental health to physical health. And Kader Atia has been talking about, the cracks. He talks about repair and the visible kind of marks of repair on objects. Where Ngangkari is very much embedded in everything. So hence, some Ngangkari do painting, some do dance, some do song. Some are, just mothers or fathers or children. So even Ngangkari, can be like a 13-year-old kid, for example. So it's a huge responsibility in our communities. And the way in which that Betty and Marinka work together is very much about sharing their mara. So mara is their word for water, which you'll hear a few times. And because water does this, and it's also like the hand when you heal, it does this.
We have just a few more images of their work. This is actually
Betty
and
photo.
Marinka, right?
Look how big those paintings are. They're huge.
Would you want to say a bit about that location?
Sure. So you can see on the funnily divided up map of Australia that they got very radical with naming states. So you have Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, of course after Queen Victoria. South Australia was a bit kind of a boring name, but they are in the northwest of South Australia, that white rectangle, and you can see there's in Ghana is the yellow dot, So they work at Iwencha Arts, and it's a very well-known art centre. I just want to say one thing about art centres, and also linked to economy and racism in Australia. So I think about maybe 15 years ago, so in Australia you get free healthcare, and also you can get a wage if you're not working. But before, about 10 years ago, Indigenous people, we had to actually work for the dole. So if you were identified as Indigenous, you had to work. So you had to go and, work on the roads or work somewhere, where non-Indigenous people didn't have to work for the dole. And so when this scheme changed 10 years ago, also 10, 15 years ago, of course the rest of the Australians were like, what's going on? It's kind of like, we obviously don't know anything about your history. And so these art centres were really set up for especially remote communities, because when you're in a remote community, it's a remote community. You got 100 people there, or maybe 200, 300, sometimes only 50. And these are, it's complicated. I don't really have the time to talk about it now, but many of these communities, well, I wouldn't say many, a lot of them are on their traditional lands, but I didn't grow up on my traditional lands because of the mission system, etc. And so you're in this remote place, and it's often the elder people, so this is how our culture is, have the responsibility, and are often the ones who earn the money. So Betty and Marinka, the short of this long story, are really the kind of the breadwinners of their family. Also with the Yolngu and up in Yirrkala, in the top northeast of Australia as well, up near Darwin as well. Of course, this is all throughout Australia. And I think it's just important to say that it was that kind of weird moment about working for the dole that actually kind of created this Western desert movement, this Western art desert movement, which is very famous now. But it doesn't come without its problems. So it's definitely still not a fantasy. Yeah, it's not like, a sweet spot. It's complicated. And it's also very remote.
Thank you. I think we do need another panel with you, sharing all your knowledge about these things, which is right now a really intense download. But maybe one more question before we actually start the video would be about that their work is not only inspired by healing, but of course also by their personal histories. And they're mentioning nuclear testing in Maralinga. And I think it would be great if you could give just a brief context of these testings before we start listening to you and Betty.
Yeah, sure, thank you. And there's also another artist, Ioannis Skas, I'm not sure if we can mention this, but she's also will be in the show, and her work specifically and physically speaks to the nuclear testing that the British were doing in Australia in the early to mid 1900s, and it's pretty intense kind of conversation because we don't have the time, but it's also very traumatic history. Also in the Montebello Islands, which is in Western Australia, there were many, many nuclear testing that happened. And many Aboriginal people, especially Betty's father and others, were not told that these tests were happening. So could you imagine being out in the country somewhere and all of a sudden there's nuclear bombs going off around you? So a lot of members of a lot of communities were affected and, of course, eventually died from this exposure. Ioannis Skas specifically talks about this in her work and is related through kinship to straight up from... in the bottom right hand of the white rectangle is kind of around where it happened in South Australia, the nuclear testing, or one of the sites in Australia, where Betty's father and brothers went out on country and were affected, and they eventually passed because of that. And it's something that Betty does reflect on in her work, but you'll see it with a lot of Western desert painting and also from Papanya Tula, also Pedro's work yesterday, certain stories or narratives weave into painting. And I'll just say one quick thing about the importance of this, about weaving into painting, is that there's a lot of information, you've probably heard about this, that you can't have access to because it's either sacred knowledge or you just don't have privy to it. It's kind of like your own personal lives. You may not tell me about your kid or about that you go to, a religious group or that so other things like that. So really it's no different, even though people like to romanticize this. So it's really about privacy and also law within Aboriginal culture. So it's not so obvious, this history, but we do touch on it, and I do ask Betty a bit about it.
I'm very much looking forward to the video. Maybe we will have 2 minutes if someone already has questions, because afterwards that won't be possible, unfortunately. But I'm sure Brooke will be around and will be happy to share his knowledge. Is there anything that you would like to ask now, or any comments? No, not so far. Okay. Yeah. All right. We could play the video then.
Great to see you in front of your beautiful painting, and thank you, Vicky, again for being here. I'm just wondering if you could, Betty, tell me, where are you in the world? And tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, Nairo, Atanga, Yene, Nairo, Pagaringi, Nayoko, Nyanka, Find Palam, Pala, where the arts and the human arts in Dolkanan, this were Betty and all the others paint the arts and
And is this what you're working on? And could you tell us a little bit about it?
oh, right, yes, she's working on the paintings. Tukurbanyoka. Tukurbanya jara nyudu baya liya bunya. Nairo, kwaili. Tukurbanya bala nyawangangi. Bala ni ngayolo. Ngangai ngayolo. Oh, she's making a painting about Tukurba story and also Ngangkari painting. There's a lot of stories on the paintings about Ngangkaris and place, country, Tukurba. Oh, I know. Ngangkari, learning, finding. Right work and finding no and no Hungary. She's talking about her painting. She's doing Hungary painting on the canvas, and she also doing Hungaries for healing, like healing people, doing Hungaries around.
And I know that you've been making some paintings with Marinka as well. And
yes, she was working with Maringa doing painting together, big ones. That Tukurba and Ngangkari painting. Well, she's done a lot of paintings and worked out on the canvas doing paintings about Ngangkari and Tukurba.
And with being a Ngangkari, I know how important that is, and I know that you're very renowned for your healing as well as Marinka. And how has this affected, within your community? Your role within the community there.
Well, she said she's doing a lot of paintings about Ngangkari and Tukurba, and she also do Ngangkaris when she go back home. They come around and see her for like Ngangkari healings at the clinic. She go to the clinic to Ngangkari. Just doing a lot of works here.
And do lots of people come from far away to come to see you for Ngangkari?
Wala bibe ora kimene ko jaba ngene nyako nyako ka jira mo. Ko jibi da ngale bibe ngayo nyako ndeke. Yes, there's a lot of people come from different communities sometimes to, when they feel sick, they come to see me. So I have to rely on them.
And for the big exhibition, I think you and Marinka will be making a very big painting, 5 meters long. Is that one of the biggest paintings that you've done or that you'll do?
Finding. Yes, he knows. Mm.
And when this painting is in Berlin, it's a long way away from home. What are the sort of things that you'd love to share with these people from a long way away, especially around Tukapa and Ngangkari? And if you could talk maybe a little bit about some of the stories that you think you're painting there.
Warga we painting warga. Anong ngayon kungora. Ganyan ang doya kayo mura. Yan ni bar. Well, she's do a lot of painting, and she's from a place called Yalungu in the middle of in South Australia, next to near probably about in the desert. Ngangkari, Ngangkari. Wow. She's talking about she became Ngangkari for healing people. Like she was growing up with her family, and she became Ngangkari from her family. You know what you know, you love us, you know, Ngangkari. Her father was Ngangkari. That's how she became Ngangkari after her father. Kocho nyanga. Oh, Ngayon lang wala ka rin ba eh. Mura ko yung mga peka. Ngayon, pambol pa eh. Peka. Some, like others came from other communities and they see me for like doing Ngangkari. So I do Ngangkari. That's how I became Ngangkari from a long time ago. And they know me that I do Ngangkaris. Even in these communities, they know that I do Ngangkaris. You want to money on me? Oh, well, Or like when she do Ngangkari, people might come from another community, so she already knows that that person is coming to see her, sick one is coming to visit her, so she'll know before they come here. Like someone might come sick without feeling sick, weak, you know. And she's saying that when they come, because they might feel weak in their soul or in spirit, she knows there's a spirit, their spirit's gone up, so she'll send like eagles. Eagle. She got an eagle and she'll send it away, and that eagle will go and pick up that spirit and bring it back to that person and put it in, and they'll get better. I can feel better. and that person will feel, I'm again. Oh, God. I'm going to go. Parang ngay lan ano ba? Airport. Ay, pala niya. Ano niya ngay? Airport ba ron? Ngoro ko. Nilay, pero orin niya. Kapo ke ngoro niya kapo niya niya to. Ate ko. And she's got equal. Oh, equal. Will go and find a soul somewhere else and their spirit and bring it back. Because only she can see that eagle go and get that. That's why I see two paintings by Ngangkari's Mara's hands are open, like you see. Oh, mga if someone say, oh, there's someone around sick at night time, and she'll say, well, I'm coming over there. Like, Ngangkari eagle might go and visit that person at home, come back to her and tell her that that person's sick, so she to Ngangkari. She's saying that eagle belongs to her father, and that's why she's got that eagle now.
There's also the water. Is it like, Betty, in your painting, sometimes you draw when the rains come, the water goes around. Is that one?
Yeah. Okay. Only alcohol for the water. Parang ano niya ko ba? Una, pangal ba? Parang ano. She's saying that she did a lot of water holes on her paintings, water for healing. When there's no tanks and taps, they know where to go and get water from the rock hole and from the creeks. Yeah. And she's saying that when she got older, her father took her to Annabella the first time. She went to school in Annabella. Which one you cover? Like she went to Annabella and saw a lot of kids wearing blankets. And she had clothes. She knows. After she went to Annabella, she was there for a little while, and her father took her to his families, so she went with them and to stay there. They had a lot of sheep farm, some of them.
And I was wondering, I mean, I know that both Betty and Marinka are Ngangkari. Are there also younger generations that Betty works with and Marinka in regards to being Ngangkari?
Yes, there's lot of younger is growing up. Young like all of them, young she said when she got out in Maryland at night time, she sees a lot of Ngangkaris in the community. Young ones.
Mama again. Whenever I get no? Arnold.
And when her father took her to Hannibal and left her there with his families, Betty, and he went.
One ngayo mama ngayo kundelinga yene ngayo kundelinga ngayo pura.
She was living there with her auntie, her father's family, cousins. His father lived at her sister's place, Betty, and took two little brothers with him to Manalon. His father went back to Maralinga. His father went to the place where she was born, and that's why he went back to that place, but there was no one there, and they turned around and went to Maralinga.
Karin Omar.
Kujibong.
Oh, mama jaga ngayo.
Why you don't
Oh, pero
was I think someone was working at somewhere when there was Marlinga bomb was starting to happen. So I think someone must be gone running around and picking up all the animals from the bush, taking them to Umara before that bomb went off. Her father, mother, and two little brothers were all taken to Umara. Her older brother told them that her father was at Umara. Like taking all the people before the bomb, there was a lot of people taken, and they made a camp there at Woomera for all the people to go and stay at Woomera before that bomb went off. So she was in Annabelle, and somebody else told that her father was at Woomera in a safe house. Probably they got. Well, when she got older at Annabelle and started looking for a job, working, when you're Annabelle, that's where she saw Maringa at first time at Annabelle school. That's how she now became known to her. Now she's doing paintings about country and Ngangkari.
Kalau ngayo
Now she's doing paintings about her father's eagle and also her dreaming place, emus.
Oh, very.
There's also emu tracks from her birthplace. Peacocks walking around with little emus.
And with the water, I mean, you talked before about the healing properties of water and Mara, I think. Is that the hand? Is Mara the word for hand? Yeah. I mean, this is the healing, the Ngangkari movement. Is this also something in the water that Betty could talk about?
Wash. She's an Hamala. She uses to drink water and also for healing. That's why she do a lot of water holes, rock holes.
And is the Chukapa, the eagle, is it also in the painting? I mean, I know that you talked about the emu tracks, but is there eagle in there too?
Before she made a painting about a hand, about the eagle, Mara. You Eagle is saying that eagle cows when it comes to Natam, she'll go merrily like flying like an eagle and sees a lot of people, a lot of places. That's why she's using Mara for painting Chokurba. For she sees overall a lot of things. Barreling. She's gonna do. She's done half a painting, but she might do later on for Ngangkari in that painting as well after.
Yeah.
Valia. Is it, Betty, when you work with Marinka, when you both make the painting together, does it feel natural when you do it? Like, what kind of conversations do you have about making the painting together?
Well, she said when they work together in one big painting, they'll talk about stories and talk about their own bird countries, and talk about Ngangkaris.
And is it only Marinka that Betty's worked with like this? Like she, after America, she did a painting. She did work with somebody else, another lady in the Arts Center, Nelly Colden. I was wondering, could I ask one more question? And I just want to say thank you for sharing this sorry story about your father and the nuclear bomb. I know that that's affected a lot of, you mob out there. And it's a sensitive issue, but has some of this, apart from the eagle, appeared in any of Betty's paintings, or if she maybe thought about it, or is it still just very, very personal?
Kalau ruang kalau nyana karing unonga yula kiting nyana karing unonga kalau uno pakan uno jam kalau nyana karing pakan.
Well, she's talking about the eagle that one day she was at home and she heard a voice saying, somebody said, hey, someone's talking there. Can you have a look? And she got up and saw there's a Ngangkari eagle was there and flew up somewhere who must be visiting. That's belonged to her father, so she knows. Well, next question.
Thank you, Betty. But I know, Betty, that you've exhibited your work internationally, but what's it like for you to think about exhibiting your work in Berlin, where all different people can see about Ngangkari and also your Jukupa, about who you are, and to share that in Berlin?
She's saying that she's excited that her painting's going away to another country far away. She's happy to see her work, Ngangkari painting goes somewhere else. People to see.
Because there are other artists in the exhibition from different parts of the world who also look at these, practices of Ngangkari as well. So it'll be very nice to see her and Marinka's painting there.
The painting you got back. Jangan you pada painting, pula jangan jangan cukup jangan.
Valia, thank you so much.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you both. Thank you. Valia. You too, Valia. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, I'm not staying up here very long. Just those of you who were interested in the other town where her family was taken and separated, it's actually Woomera, W-O-M-E-R-A, I think, not Umura, like it was translated, just in case you're interested and you go, what? It's all wrong. And you also heard Betty and that going, oh, it's kind of like or yes or whatever. It has different meanings. But thank you all for being here, and it's going to be great to see their work here. And I think we'll have to go now. Are we going out that door or that door? Yeah, if you could all head out that door, please, unless there's another session in here after, or there's not. No, there's not. There is? At 6 though. Okay, great. So thank you all.